Hello everyone and welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. This is a little bit of a different type of video. I'm still not straying from shit-eating the fan or from dealing with current events. I've often talked about how being a prepper, it's up here. It's the prepared mind, as well as having food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense, and a plan. Right, I had to get that in early here. It has been an adventure doing this. It has also been an intellectual discovery process. What the hell is going on is a question I ask myself all the time. You know, we live in a fabricated world, and the more I delve into this, the more I come to realize how true it is. I started off in my 20s, my early 20s, investigating what were then conspiracies, but are now factual understandings of the construct, the underlying principles of our society, of our government, of our economic structures. All of these structures are interconnected, and they're all fake. They're all created. In a way, you could say they're fantasy. So, when I come here to the microphone or to the camera now, I realize that as much as anything else, these broadcasts that you and I share, the information you provide to me, how I get to think about it and then come back to you, it's like a serial. And the old serial, the idea of the serial movie or television was to go from week to week to have a new adventure, right? The character, whoever it was. In this case, it's you. In my case, it's me. We perceive a problem, and then we go about understanding and solving it. That's what the serial character does. Except in our serial, it's every day we wake up. Now, like any good human being, we have jobs to do. We have real lives, real personal. We're a living human being, living, breathing, existing, interacting, affecting. But it's a serial, and it continues. And here on the Prepared Mind Network, we take in. This is amazing. You're going to love this concept. We take in facts about the fictional world we live in. We take in facts, things that are happening, and we digest and process through our own thinking system, right? Our own filter of reality. And I've come to realize that my particular filter is really not like anyone else's, right? It's because it's based on, my filter is based on my life because of, well, let's go with the standard understanding of things. My race, my gender, my genetic dynamics, my geographical interfacing where I live, right? My political bend on things, my philosophical bend on things based on philosophers and other intelligent people I've interacted with. Even coming down to when I was a child, what books were available to me for reading? Well, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, the Narnia Chronicles. How about Kurt Vonnegut Jr.? All of his books, you know, Breakfast of Champions and all. How about reading Ayn Rand? Right? How about reading the Federalist Papers? How about actually reading real, I can't say real, because this is all a construct. But that's just a few. In fact, this entire bookshelf that runs the length of my place is full of the books that I read that have shaped my understanding of the world. And so this serial that we live out, because it's so complex and there's so many players and there's so much going on, I get to do a video or two a day, right? And I could do more or I could do less. But I do what I do now. I think 2 a day, right? 2 a day I put out to cover what's going on, to really digest it and get a feeling for it, to understand it, and to understand this serial that plays out. It is completely fake, yet we feel the pain and loss. We get to experience the joy and wonder. We get to pay the taxes, right? All of life is it's like a show. Now I've often referred to my own life. It's the movie of John, right? It really is. In a way, it plays out. I'm the character, the main character in my life, interacting with other characters. But they're real people, but they're characters, and they have certain attributes and qualities, right? So my sons are my sons, my friends are my friends, strangers I'll call them crude acquaintances, people I come across. They're consistent. They're consistent. They're always the same to themselves. So when I examine what's going on in D.C., right, whether they're lawyers or politicians or businessmen or bankers, they are consistent with what they do. And they play their games. And it plays out every day and every week. And it's a serial. It's a concept. And I've come to this conclusion in life, right, that it's all very fragile. And so I said, hey, shit can hit the fan. It really can. It can happen very quickly with some serious events. Now, you're saying, but John, you've been saying that for years. We can take a look at Japan. At the end of World War II, the people of Japan were observing their world through their eyes, through their filters, through their worldview, their perspectives, that Japan is the center of the universe. Just like for me, Northern California is center of the universe. But there's evil foes everywhere, right? So same with Japan. But what happened? Well, the U.S. military were getting closer and closer and closer. The Marines went from fighting way down at Guadalcanal in the South Pacific, up through Truk, all the way up, all the way up to Japan, and the people of Japan saw it coming closer and closer. It took some years, took some time to get there, but it was an omnipresent, incremental move towards shit hitting the fan. And then one day, it's just tragic and horrific, and it still shocks me to know it happened, according to the historical record, and it saddens me greatly. Even though I know that by this event or these events, the world may have been spared even greater horrors. But Japan was had nuclear bombs detonated. And I'm just going to use the word nuclear bombs were detonated. First on Hiroshima and then on Nagasaki. Terror was unleashed. And unlike regular warfare, it was instantaneous. Everywhere within the blast was just radiated heat, light, explosive power. And those people were killed instantly. And then same with Nagasaki. For those people, it went from a slow creeping fear that shit was coming. And the poor Japanese people were so terrified of American GIs. They had built up in their minds this belief that they were these horrible white giants that would come and obliterate everyone. And in a way, it happened. But shit hit the fan for them, just like that. They saw it coming a long ways off, like a serial every week. Back then, people got newsreels. They were filmed, then edited, a very slow and painstaking process with, literal strips of film, 16 frames per second. I don't know what Japan had, but we're just going to assume they had 16. edited, and then they had to be produced, mass-produced, distributed throughout the system, and then played. That's the news. News cycle was a week. Newspapers were faster, but film, you get images as well as words. It was much faster. Information intake. That was the media. But yeah, they got the weekly serial. News is much quicker, and that way, I do news, or rather, I don't do news. I try not to do news. I try to do commentary. But they would get this. And then all of a sudden, it was upon them. Pow. People were horrified, terrified, shit had hit the fan. So, we have a serial we're dealing with today. A reality that we're trying to understand through the character of ourselves. And it's one more reason why I say you're the expert in your world. You need to get prepared. We all have things in common, right? We have those Maslowian hierarchical needs. We have that. That's what we have in common. How we go about implementing that in our lives is up to us as individuals. You can watch videos by other makers on specific equipment. You can look at people for scenario concepts. I like to try and do a little bit of everything. It's a lot of fun to do. It helps me understand better. As I sit down and I put these videos together, I'm learning from myself as we go by discussing it. I go, that's a dumb idea, John, or hey, that has some merit. Usually I sit down, find out what has merit before I come talk to you guys. Even though every now and then, just sitting here, a revelation occurs, and I'm like, oh, epiphany, wow, that hurts. But this is it, right? We're characters in this. And years ago, back again in my 20s, I believed I could make a difference. Very idealistic and patriotic. That's why I had enlisted in the service. I thought I could participate in the good fight. And as I've grown older and older, I've lost the naivete, right? The belief in the system. Because as I acquire more and more and more information, knowledge, and it passes through the filter of reality, and then also the testing of reality, I wouldn't say I become jaded, but I certainly would be cynical of the human experience. Again, having some foundation in philosophy has helped me examine it through a number of different philosophical lenses. It has been just an amazing human experience, but it's one with terror always in the backdrop. And in this video, I also wanted to share this concept of our world, and it kind of runs along in a rough tangent to the Hiroshima-Nagasaki view of how it takes a long time to observe the shit coming, but when it gets there, it presents itself in a horrific manner, and people realize their world is forever changed. This one is a little different. It has to do with ice. If you take a lake, very cold water, water and lakes. I don't have a fear of water, but it makes you think. Too many movies like Jaws and The Deep, and also movies like The Abyss. It's dark, you can't see down there. You don't know what's down in the water. But if it gets cold enough, right, the water freezes on top. You get a layer of ice. And whether ice is 1 inch thick or 10 inches thick, you can't tell how thick it is. It looks solid. Our world has the appearance of being solid. I can go out there, I can drive down the road, I can go to the store and there's food. I flip the switch and the lights come on. Right? It's a solid world. It's predictable. It seems good. But ice only looks solid. Standing on top, you can't tell how thick it is. Right? You can't tell how thick it is. Now, the thicker it is, of course, the firmer, the stronger, the more solid our world is. But let's assume that it's not as thick as we would hope. And so as we go about our day, walk around on the ice, you start to hear cracks. Crackle, crackle, right? What does that tell us in our head, right? These cracks and fissures, that means the ice is getting very thin. And we hear it, and then we stop and go, hey, what is that? Right? That's the sound of a problem becoming, I don't want to use the word prescient. I would just say it's impending. Maybe that works. Either works. Impending change is coming. The ice is getting thin, it's cracking. And when it breaks, all of the weight of you, all of the weight of this world will pass through it into another paradigm, another medium. Rather than walking, now you're swimming. Right? And up here on the ice, while it has its discomforts, it's cold, it also has some firmness to it. When you break through the ice, you're shocked by the cold water, right? You're submerged in a world that you're not familiar with. And nothing is solid. There's nothing to grab onto. All you can do is paddle your feet and your arms to try and maintain position or gain movement. And it's a lot harder to move through water. All the while you're being shocked by its coldness and the change from one reality to another, from walking on the ice to being in the water and trying to keep your head above water. Right? So which one is more like life? You know, I have to believe that being in the water is more like real life. Because the moment you stop paddling, the moment you and I stop kicking our feet and working with our hands and using our mind to understand, the moment you stop that, you drown. You know, being on the ice, yeah, it's uncomfortable here. You know, I hate taxes. Government sucks. People are jackasses. Right? They're their own worst enemies and they don't understand it. But at least it's solid and you can take a break. You can sit down. You can take a nap, right? You're relatively comfortable and you're operating in a world that has certain physical parameters that are easy to understand. Water's completely different. Right? Water in its liquid form, right? It's completely different than ice. And so you have to work at it. You have to have an understanding and know how to swim. Some people instinctively know. Other people have to be told, kick your feet and move your hands. You know, other people just, they sink like a stone. When shit hits the fan, when the ice breaks, people are going to fall through. Some will sink. Some will swim because they're prepared. And others will have to basically be told and figure it out as they go. Where we're at today, though, is I think we're still on top of the ice. Things are relatively normal. And I'm hoping for shit hits the fan light. I really am. I'm hoping it's going to be easy. That underneath it's not, you know, water that just chills you to the bone and kills you. I'm hoping it's going to be, you know, a relatively easy transition into the next paradigm. And as far as I'm concerned, we're getting all of the clues, all of the indicators ahead of time. While the world looks solid, like I said, I can go get fuel, I can go get gas, I turn on the lights, everything's cool and normal. But I hear the ice creaking. I hear and sense the ice getting thinner, even though I look at it and it's just as opaque. It's normal as it's ever been. You know, power lines, roads, houses, people, it all seems normal. But I'm hearing the creaking and snapping of the ice every day. So every day I come here and share it with you in this serial, right? This to be continued episode of what we call life in this world, right? It's quite incredible. Yeah, where do you go with it? What do you do? What can you do? Are you going to stop paddling when the ice breaks? You know, and the terrible thing is that like I said, when I was young, I believed I could change things. That was naive. That was my belief and faith in the goodness of what we had. But I didn't see how powerful, right, the other factors were, how powerful the powerful are. And I've made an impact here on YouTube. And I want to thank you guys for making that impact with me. By sharing these videos, by supporting our efforts, by putting your comments in, doing all those things. Even little things like hitting the thumbs up on YouTube, right? Just $2 a month on Patreon. All of those little things have made a difference so we can help other people realize the ice is cracking. At some point, we're going to fall through and it's going to be the shit hits the fan moment when everyone goes, hey, why is this so different? Right? The lights may go on. Right? Maybe there'll be less food in the stores. Maybe certain gas stations will close down. Maybe on odd days of the week, the power is turned off. Oh, that's right. We already have that here in California. Right? Those are clues and indicators that are going to help condition people who are preparing, like you know. But I don't see it. I don't hear the cracks lessening. I don't hear the creaking of the ice. Right? And I do fear that day when impending conflict, I don't want to use the word doom, but impending troubles will be visited one day by that surprise. We'll know how close it is, but the change from our normal reality to the obliteration, maybe not of the world around us, maybe all the houses will be standing, but the obliteration will be the perception that everything is normal, right? This wholesome matrix of goodness. We're going to realize it's all fake. It's all fake, right? It's this reality we created for ourselves and our belief. And it's all different for all of us depending on, again, age, gender, religion, where you were born. Everything that's gone into making you into you, it can be sheared away. And I'm putting together some plans on how to possibly confront this. But it's for me, it's been a lifelong adventure, if you will. Right? You grow up. The first 20 years of your life I consider to be basic training for being an adult. Right? Your body has to mature. You have to get some basic information from school. And then you're thrust into the world to have an adventure. I've had about 30 years of adventure. Right? And here we are. It is nothing like how it started with me. Again, started out thinking I could fix things, help things, make things better, and realized all along I was battling a Leviathan, a Goliath. This huge juggernaut of an animal that at first I thought I could take on and at least do a David and Goliath. And then I realized through time here that it is so big. It is so big and vast that it doesn't even recognize that I'm here. There is nothing I could do to even make it pay attention to me. That's how big the power is that's destroying our world. That's heating a cauldron under our ice and thinning it, if you will. That's how big it is. It doesn't mean I've given up, because once again, our network, the Prepared Mind Network, the R Syndicate, here on YouTube, it is a way for us to come together and make some difference. But we're only going to help people on an individual basis, and that's good enough for me. Right? In a lot of different ways, I've saved people, and I don't mean that in a blasphemous way. But I've helped people, I've saved people, I've done that my whole life. I've had people say, you've made a fantastic difference. Just as I told other people, hey, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your knowledge, your experience. or sharing time with me so that I could gain and learn from them. I like to pass that on. And you guys do the same by giving back to me and to others. So that's what we can do. Otherwise, get ready, because it's coming. You know, this week is already started off with a boom, a kaboom, right? So do your best to help others. Definitely help yourself. Chance favors the prepared mind. Is yours. Godspeed. Semper Fi.